All right, Jules, we'll get to the manager search, the Southgate succession thing in a minute, but I want to take us back to the Greece game.
Yeah.
And again, if nobody ever experimented, everybody did things the same way, then there would be no innovation, right?
Yeah.
I'll go all Zuckerberg on you, move fast and break things.
Yeah.
He tried something different, and he tried something different without the time to really practice it, because I think England
20
would have
minutes, he said. They worked on it for 20 minutes. Come on, please. This is an international game. It's not even in friendly. I just don't think this was the right. He could have gone for, if he wanted, for Foden as a false nine or Bellingham as a false nine, and put someone with Rice in midfield and have something more balanced that made more sense. And he would have learned much more from it than this just mashup that he did on that. I just don't understand.
If you just listen to us on the podcast and not, it's worth going on YouTube just to see how disgusted Jules looks like now. Jules' face is a picture.
But then for him then to come out after the game and said, yeah, we worked it for 20 minutes at training. Well, come on, why?
It's weird, and it also feeds into this narrative about the Nations League. Like, okay, as you know, I am a fan of the Nations League.
Me
I
too.
get annoyed when people say like, oh, what is it even supposed to be? I'm like, dude, it's like the 4th edition. If you haven't worked out what it is. I remind people what the landscape was like before, when you would play a bunch of completely meaningless friendlies. This actually, I think, means something, because you're playing teams of equal prestige. If you're a top side, and of course a top side that does not get relegated, i.e. not England, because they are relegated.
Yeah.
And had they screwed up the Finland game, they could be on their way to playing Moldova, by the way. Who I believe are hot favorites from promotion to come up. Can you imagine? So it is a competition. And those people who say, oh, but it's the quality of, this is like the World Cup and the Euros during the year.
Yeah.
And we can either say we don't like international football, we want to get rid of international football altogether, and only have it for the World Cup and the Euros. And by the way, if you do that, then you don't have any continuity, and then that'll be really crappy quality too. Just hand everything over to the clubs. Or otherwise, this is a much better solution, what we had before. I agree with you. Reaching that level of experimentation without preparation, you're doing one of two things. One is you're saying, oh, Greece are so terrible. It's like Greece are like the Muppet Show, which they're not.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter who I send out there.
Yeah.
So I think that was a bad call. The idea to try something like this for a future when, Harry Kane is older. Harry Kane drops off anyway, much more. And then you really only have Watkins because, you don't like Tammy and whatever else. Like, I don't think is a bad idea. Like the fundamental concept of how do I get my three of my very best players on the pitch at the same time is not a bad context. So I don't fault them for that. Doing it in that context with 20 minutes and then coming out and saying, oh, we only practiced it for 20 minutes. Again, I take it back to communications. Yeah. I think he also has another issue too, because he's very low profile. Inevitably, national team managers who don't have club careers, they come into it with their legacy as players, right?
Yeah.
So with this guy, those of us old enough to remember him, we remember you as kind of like, the off-brand low-rent Thomas Grafson, who, the shaven-headed guy who runs around and runs into people and can't play, right? So you think he's going to be like this as a national team coach.
Right.
On top of that, he's shaven-headed. He's not handsome like Gareth South. No, I'm just kidding. But he gives off a certain look. And he's not like that at all. Those who've worked with him say he's studious, he's attacking-minded, he's very reflective. He is not what he was as a player. But this is what you have to go on. Between that and the things that he says and his communications issues, which again are exacerbated by the fact that he's following on from Southgate, who had the media, eating out of his hands, at least as a person. Football's another thing. It makes everything so much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought his September international break, the first half against Ireland was good. The game against Finland, Wembley, not maybe so much overall, but there were positives in there. The role for Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, was very interesting, something that Southgate never really went into until he played him as a proper midfielder, which, again, made no sense at all at the World Cup, at the Euro, sorry. So there's things that are interesting. but he seems conflicted himself, Carsley. Like you said, sometimes one day he wants the job, one day he doesn't want the job, another day he wants the job.
Okay, can we knock this on the head? He wants the job.
Well, yeah, surely. He said it after September. But now that things
whatever
haven't gone
nonsense
well.
he says, I haven't applied for the job. Maybe they haven't opened applications or whatever. Like, surely he wants the job.
Of course he does. Of course he does. But then when things don't go well, he starts saying like, well, actually, I never really said. Hopefully I'll be back with the under 21.
Yeah, so don't be a tool. Just say, I want the job. I want to show you. Hopefully you evaluate the whole Lee Carsley, what I can bring, and judge me based on that.
But where I was very disappointed is I think he wanted the job, especially after September when things went well and people were praising him. And he got massively carried away with that Greece game and the lineup. And I think that was suicidal from him in the sense for his own England career. I mean, because I think it's very unlikely now that they give him the job, regardless of what happens in November. And there's obviously a massive game away in Greece, because if they don't top this group, they're staying in League B next season again, which is embarrassing in itself.
It is really embarrassing. So can you imagine if most of like the ex-pros and pundit talkers in the country kind of started really caring about the Nations League?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the FA, right? So you came out and you said just now that, he hasn't helped himself with the job. What should the Football Association be looking at? Because as I see it, there may be other candidates. Personally, my kind of baseline position is that if you are a big nation, you need to have a player from that nation, or you need to have a coach from that nation. Before people point out that Lee Carsley played for the Republic of Ireland, sure, whatever, same difference, right? In the sense that the man.
So you're not for a foreigner for this job. You want a British guy.
I think,
or an Irish guy.
I think unless you're in a crisis situation, where arguably they were when they appointed Sven-Göran Eriksson, where really you look around and it's just a pure Muppet show of freaks and weirdos and crooks, which I think is part of the reason why they went with Sven back in the day. Capello, I think, was a big difference. I think Capello said like, oh yeah, we get him, he's a winner, we automatically win. Right? Yeah. Didn't work out either. I think you should go with somebody who represents, if you are a big nation. If you're a smaller nation, I don't fault you, right? But there are alternatives out there who are English. I just look at them and I'm not sure any of them excite me right now, or I feel would be ready to leave club management. I mean, I don't see any basis why, if you were Eddie Howe, right? Yeah. Unless you get sacked by Newcastle, why would you leave Newcastle for England? You wouldn't.
But unless England is your absolute best, is one of your dreams to go to a World Cup with England, your country. Maybe that's a dream that he's had. Or somebody else.
Unless you make a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. Right? And also, like some people see it as the pinnacle of your career to coach your national team, your country.
And it can be. The problem is, after you go to England and you go away, it's not easy to get back into club management at a high level. And I think Eddie Howe, especially at his age, Eddie Howe's not 60, right? He's younger than that. I think he's mindful of this situation.
Yeah.
There are other decent England managers, but nobody who I look at and say, oh, look, you're far ahead of Lee Carsley. So the idea of having an FA man, somebody who's been there, somebody who knows all the guys who've been through the under-21s really well, somebody who's not going to embarrass you in public, say stupid things, drink the pint of wine like a former England manager once did.
Yeah.
Who plays attacking football, or says he does, who I think in some ways, all the things that we criticize Gareth Southgate for, I think Lee Carsley is capable of moving beyond that. I think he's shown that. I guess what I'm driving at, Jules, is while I love as much as anybody to make fun of the Football Association, I kind of think they're doing things in the right way. And what I mean by this is, you said they should have prepared before for Southgate, whatnot. I think if they have somebody who they see as a potential in-house solution in Lee Carsley, and also having a situation where, and they should give them a shot, and thereby also avoiding a situation where, Southgate leaves, and then who are we gonna hire, and you're kind of forced to go and beg Graham Potter or Tuchel or whoever else to take your job right then and there, right? So giving yourself that little bit of time maybe quietly poking around, seeing what's out there, seeing who's available. Maybe there's a top manager who gets sacked and who becomes available between now and January. And then you make a decision in January. You've got 6 games as England manager. And more importantly, I think 3 long England camps on which to judge Carsley. And then you make a decision.
I don't know. I think we mid-October. It's 3 months now since Southgate announced he was leaving. In 3 months, I don't think you should be in this position. And by the way, I mean, we're not even sure if Carsley wanted. Well, we think he wanted the job. He wants the job, but he says himself that it's a job for a world-class manager that he isn't.
So it's not helping himself.
Yeah,
he said the England manager should be a world-class coach
who's won titles.
Well, he's won a title with the under 21s.
Yeah, but that's it. So I'm not sure if you put him there, if you really believed in him or not. I don't think he's the answer now anyway. Also because of his own communication, but also by what we've seen so far and what he's done. Yes, there's different ideas, new ideas, which is all good. A bit more attacking, that's great. I'm just not sure I really don't think he's the answer right now.
Thomas Tuchel has been linked with the job. Yeah. Cynics suggest that it is a way to perhaps move Manchester United into hurrying it along with Erik ten Hag.
Maybe.
I think Thomas Tuchel would be a bad option for England, not because he's a bad coach. I would actually bring Thomas Tuchel in like a month before the World Cup if I were desperate and he wanted the job, more so than having him be England manager day in, day out. Because the way the man's personality is, the guy needs to be working every day. Otherwise his head explodes.
That's what we think, but he might, if he wants that job and he's agreeing on taking on England, his feelings might be different towards. That's what.
Let me ask you this: if I were Thomas Tuchel and I ring you up and it's like, yeah, Julian, Thomas here, like, should I wait for the United job or should I take the England job?
Yeah,
what would you tell him?
But yeah, I understand. But the United job might never come, so we don't know.
Well, because Ten Hag's going to be there for eternity. It doesn't matter.
They might go for somebody else than Tuchel if Ten Hag is sacked. Whereas if he gets offered the England job, that's because he's keen on it. Otherwise, they wouldn't offer him the job. I think you should. What's interesting about England is usually when you come over and take over a big country like that, it's either things have gone really, really bad, or somebody has left very quickly, like a Mancini for Italy. Deschamps had to do a massive rebuilding job. De La Fuente for Spain, Luis Enrique left, and clearly they wanted a different philosophy and style to what Luis Enrique had done. In this case, it's just that momentum and what you already have great, which is a Euros finalist in the last 2 Euros, actually. One of the best squads, as you said, in world football, young, with players who play in top clubs, for top managers. You would think, good mentality, a big footballing country, all of that. And you just need a winner now. You just need somebody who finally going to take you over the line, which Southgate couldn't do, which I don't think Carsley can do. I really hope if he gets the job that he can do it. I'm a bit skeptical after what we've seen in the last 4 games now. But maybe Tuchel is the guy they think, okay, he's a winner. And by the way, Tuchel's shelf life is like 18 months usually. After that, things go crazy and bonkers and mad. But if you appoint him in January, let's say, January to the World Cup, that's 18 months. For that, he can probably do a really good job.
I'll just leave you this thought since you did mention him. I wasn't going to go there. When Luis Enrique left Spain, they turned to their under-21 coach, who had also worked for the FA in different roles for many years.
Yeah.
He is not a charismatic guy. In fact, let's face it, he still looks like a bit like a weirdo. In fact, possibly even weirder than Lee Carsley. And he had only won at youth level, right? And what does he do?
Okay, it's not because De La Fuente works that it's going to work for every under-21 managers in the world.
No,
right?
but you know how people in football think.
Please,
you know how people in football think.
Yeah, but still.